Good morning. Are we perky? I do have an interesting background. I spent 20 years in New York City as a stand-up comedian, working with lots of people who you know who went on to become television stars, and here I am with you. But I'm a lifelong learner, and I kept going back to school, and I did become a psychologist, and I've spent the past number of years working in the area that is a passion for me, and that is human well-being and how we do whatever it is that we do and do it well and enjoy our life. That's what I'm going to talk about this morning. But I've had some pretty interesting career mixes. In 1990, for example, I was working on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and I was working as a therapist at a crack cocaine clinic, working with people with severe psychotic disorders. And then at night, I was the MC in an act at the comic strip in New York City. People used to say, man, you must get great material from your day job. But I really kept them quite separate and distinct. What I did after that was I became the television spokesperson for Nick at Night. I was on Nick at Night for many years. If you think about combining psychology with show business, performing, I became an unexpected authority on popular culture. You think about popular culture. Now, I don't know what you think about when you think about popular culture. You may have a strong reaction to it, worry about your kids, worry about the culture. But we have absorbed a lot of stuff that we didn't realize we absorbed. For example, do you remember the show The Jetsons? What was the father's name on that show? That's right, meet George Jetson, Jane, his daughter, his boy. What was the dog's name? How did he speak? Listen to yourselves. Professionals on the cutting edge of financial advising and insurance can actually speak like Astro the dog. All right, with the same ease of memory, rattle off the names of the 9 members of the United States Supreme Court. Go. You'd get 3 of them, right? Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment. Sky, moving on up to the east side. We finally got a piece of the, do it with me, pie. That's all you know. You really only know popular culture stuff. You don't know really much about anything else, do you? I'm only kidding. Popular culture has been an absorbing, amazing thing. Let me give you 2 facts about popular culture in America that have utterly transformed us psychosocially and has had a profound impact on you. If you're a young professional in this business, you've grown up with these 2 realities. Those of you with experience and expertise know that it has been a change in the U.S. in our culture that has been dramatic. Fact number 1, there are 316 million people in the U.S. Last year, 42 million moved. The year before that, recession, 39 million moved. Most years, it's 40 to 45 million people relocate every year. I know that the clientele in your community are increasingly mobile. There are new clients coming in and old clients moving out. We're a highly mobile society. I may be looking into the faces of some people who are living and working where you were born and raised, but the likelihood is that you or your children or your extended family and your nuclear family have relocated. Between the ages of 20 and 40, 1 out of 3 move every single year. So you know that. You know that we're a highly mobile society. People are not rooted in their communities for decades as they had been in the past. Fact number 2, the average American is watching 28 hours of television a week. And that's just television, that is not the internet. If you think about the amount of hours we spend each week looking at a screen, we look at a screen for 35 to 40 hours every week. If you do a little mental test in your own situation, you'll know that if you're looking at a television screen or a computer screen or your phone, you too are engaged in screens more than you are engaged in almost any other experience. It's been a profound change. So you know that we're mobile and you know that we're media drenched. As a psychologist, I must tell you, it is in the connection of the 2 of those that have had the most profound effect on us psychologically, because we are the most stressed culture on earth. As much as we experience our largesse, the vagaries of the economy and everything else aside, it's a blessing to live in America. And yet we have record levels of stress-related disorders. 25% of Americans routinely and over the years have a psychologically diagnosable stress-related disorder. That's 1 out of 4 of us, so look around. You know, if the 3 people sitting next to you look okay, it's you. Now, in my business, we don't really talk about stress anymore because it's a murky, muddy term. I mean, anyone here could say, oh, I'm stressed. But if you go symptom to symptom, it will vary. Maybe you have gastrointestinal problems. Maybe you can't sleep at night. I don't know what your symptoms are. Isn't this a happy talk? We'll get to it. We talk about coping, and that's what I want to talk about today, is coping, because that's where the rubber meets the road. Because how is it that we cope with stress? You know, stress in my business mostly is about the issue of control. Now, you're all real successful people. There's a psychologist, Julian Rotter, who coined the term a locus of control, that some people just natively have an external locus of control. In other words, what that means is they go through their life and they really believe that they really don't have the power to control their life, that events outside them dictate what's going to happen to them. That's not you and not me. We have an internal locus of control. We are wired with optimism, confidence, resilience. We can solve a problem. That works really well until you run into situations that thwart that resilience. I'm not speaking from any lofty position here. I tend to be a control freak myself. I'm reminded that control is an unrealistic expectation, however, in certain life situations. You know when I get it? It's when I fly. Now, I want to go over here. I was a comedian for 20 years, and I've been speaking for a long time. I fly a lot. I fly about 150,000 miles a year, and it's ugly travel. It's not, Asia or Europe. It's, Kansas City to L.A. to San Antonio. And after 30 years of flying, I have to tell you that I'm still a nervous flyer. Applaud if, like me, even if you do fly, apply if you're an uncomfortable flyer. Okay. Now applaud if you're one of those lucky souls who has no fear at all of flying. Applaud if you're like that. All righty. A couple of you applauded twice. That's a whole other mental health issue. We won't get into that now. Actually, the second group, the people who have no fear, I must tell you, as a shrink, you are in complete denial. Most of you are probably like me, actually. On a clear day, beautiful day, I'm fine. I'll get up there. You ever been on a flight and you hear a noise or you feel a sensation that you don't recognize as part of the routine of a flight? I don't want to just begin screaming like a child, right? You look up to see if anyone else is panicking, right? If the frequent flyer next to you has not dropped their Wall Street Journal, it's probably cool. I look for the flight attendants. Do you do that? Because they know what all the routines are. Because the last thing you want to see when you look up is the flight attendant making that same face back at you. That would be really bad, right? They go running to the telephone. You're probably going down. And my fear is not movement or noise. It's movement or noise as a precursor to crashing, falling out of the sky for whatever number of reasons. Because they've never really solved that problem, have they? What do they have? They have seat belts for the impact? A fairly dubious value in a 400-mile-an-hour nosedive into the hillside, really. Wow, that was some impact, huh? Thank God for the old belt. You see that guy across the aisle? He had no seatbelt on. He went through the windshield. That's actually what kills you. They have the oxygen mask. I got to tell you, folks, if there's a crisis on board the plane, I don't want to become even more alert. Wouldn't some kind of a drug or anesthesia be more useful there? It's Captain Bob. It's going to get a little dicey up here. Just take a big suck into that mask. We're going to knock you out for about 20 minutes. We'll be up here praying to God we all wake up. I've been in all sorts of frightening airline events, flying so much. I was working in a comedy club in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was flying with another comedian, and we're coming into the Raleigh airport. Now, this is a true story. The landing gear of the plane came down, but apparently a little light did not come on in the cockpit. So they weren't sure if the wheels were all the way down, and evidently there's no little door they can look out, so it seemed to me they could have done something with a mirror on a stick out the window. That would have worked, huh? Oh, no, they're fine. Look, they're fine. They're fine. So the pilot said, I'm guessing he was kind of new, he actually said over the loudspeaker, folks, we're pretty sure the wheels are okay. That's what he said. He said, we're going to have to fly low over the airport and have the tower look at the landing gear. This is the high-tech solution for this crisis. We're going to buzz the airport, going to slow down to, 200 miles an hour so they can get a really good look. Some knuckleheads looking out the window. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Toto's wheels were down pretty good. Bring it in. I've been in a couple of, you ever hear of an aborted landing? Now, oftentimes it's pretty benign. It's an air traffic thing, you're circling around. I was in one in Detroit that was really dramatic. We're coming in to land, and we were just about to touch down, and then like a rocket, we took off. It's like, oh my gosh, we thought, well, maybe we went to the wrong airport. What did we know, Oh, this is Toledo, my bad. So the pilot comes on in that eerily calm pilot's voice, the no emotion. He goes, well, folks, it seems like a truck went right across the runway in front of us. We're going to have to go around and try that again. Now, folks, as a therapist, I must tell you, that's exactly the emotional reaction of a crazy person. Do you know that? The guy had no emotion at all. I was more worried about him afterwards. I'm going to go around and see if I can't hit that guy this time. Because let me tell you something, nobody cuts off Captain Bob, nobody. See, here's what they ought to do. If they're not solving the impact problem, other than just, get into the crash position and say goodbye, they should give you like 300 feet of rope with a hook on it. And if the plane's going down, you hook your rope onto the door, lower yourself out, and hang underneath the plane and ride it in. Can't be any more terrifying out there than it is inside the plane in the crash position. But look, here's the physics. See, here's the plane coming in to crash. Help, we're crashing. But here you are down here in your rope. Now, the wind would keep you behind the plane. Now, before the plane hits the ground, that's the bad part, and your feet reach the ground, just start running and let go. A couple of you are actually thinking this out, aren't you? I was working at a comedy club in Brooklyn called Pips. Every comic you ever heard of worked at Pips. And it's from Brooklyn, where I'm from. And this guy came up to me after the show, and I did that observation, and he goes, hey, you know that plane thing you was talking about? It seems to me when your feet reach the ground, well, you'd be running forward at like 200 or 300 miles an hour. Before you could stop yourself, I think you would just run into the flaming wreckage anyway. I don't know. It's not going to work, is what I'm saying. I said, well, you could wear roller skates and veer off. What about that? Now you talk.